Hello and welcome. We're about to dive into a concept that is absolutely critical for anyone in a helping role, your scope of practice. We're going to find out why knowing your limits isn't a weakness at all, but actually the key to helping from a place of real, effective strength. So let's start with a really challenging question, one that gets right to the heart of the matter. We all have good intentions, right? I mean, that's why we're here. But have you ever stopped to think about when those good intentions, if they're not guided by wisdom, could actually end up causing more harm than good? This slide just perfectly captures that tension, especially in ministry or community work. On one side, you've got this incredible passion, this zeal, that without wisdom can cause us to overstep our bounds. On the other, you have deep compassion, that without the right skills can accidentally make a bad situation even worse. The goal is to bring those two together, right? To be both compassionate and truly competent. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with what we're calling the helper's dilemma. Then we'll talk about why real wisdom means knowing your limits. From there, we'll get super practical about how to draw those lines. We'll also tackle a big one, why referring someone is an act of care, not rejection. And we'll wrap it all up with a really important mindset shift, from saviors to stewards. Let's jump in. Okay. So let's start with this core tension. It's that feeling you get when your deep, genuine desire to help someone smacks right into the messy, complicated reality of their life. If you've spent any time in ministry or social work, you know exactly what this feels like.
And you got to think about the setting. In a formal clinic, the roles are usually pretty clear-cut. But in a church or a community ministry, those lines get blurry fast. A pastor suddenly becomes a therapist, a volunteer becomes a case manager. It's because of that informality that knowing your own boundaries isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely essential to protect both the person you're helping and yourself.
So what's the answer here? Well, it's not to be less compassionate. It's to focus that compassion wisely. It's about shifting our mindset from, I have to fix this whole thing myself, to asking, what does this person truly need, and who is best equipped to provide it? So how do we do that? We use a professional framework called Scope of Practice. Now, I know it sounds a little technical, but it's a really important ethical guide. All it means is understanding the specific things that you are trained, qualified, and, in some cases, licensed to do. It's about knowing your lane.
And what's really fascinating is how this professional idea is just echoing ancient wisdom. The source material for this brings up Romans 12:3, which is all about having a sober, realistic judgment of our own gifts. So you could say that scope of practice is really just the modern professional application of that timeless, humble idea.
And this is the absolute key takeaway. I really want this to sink in. Acknowledging what you're not trained for is not a failure. It's a profound sign of integrity, strength, and genuine wisdom. The helper who can't say, that's beyond my training, that's the helper who is most likely to cause harm. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, but let's get practical. How do you actually figure out what your scope is? How do you know with confidence what's inside your lane and what isn't? Well, in a formal social work context, it's actually pretty well defined. It comes down to your education and training, your specific license level, whether it's a BSW or an LCSW, for example, the specific role your agency has given you, your hands-on experience with certain groups of people, and the kind of supervision you have. All these things create a very clear container for your work. Now, in the ministry world, where things are less formal, overstepping can be a bit more subtle. It might look like a well-meaning lay counselor trying to treat someone with clinical depression or severe PTSD. It could be giving out legal or financial advice when you're not qualified. Or it could be something like a dual relationship, where you're trying to be both a friend and a formal helper, which just blurs all the necessary boundaries. But really, it all comes down to continuing to work with someone when you know, deep down, their needs have grown beyond your skill set. And that brings us to what is often the most faithful, most loving, and sometimes the most difficult action we can take: making a referral. Let's just be honest about this for a second. This is a huge hurdle for so many of us who care. We worry that if we pass someone on to another helper, we're failing them, that it'll feel like we're abandoning them or rejecting them. But we have got to reframe that fear completely. A referral isn't saying, I give up on you. What it's really saying is, I care about you so much that I'm going to make sure you get connected to the absolute best person to help you, even if that person isn't me. Now that is an incredible act of love and responsibility. So at the end of the day, knowing when to refer and how to do it well is a huge sign of maturity, both on a professional level and a spiritual one. It's an act of love, truly, not abandonment, and it ensures the person you care about gets the highest quality of care that's available to them. This all leads to one final, really powerful shift in how we see ourselves, how we see our role in the lives of the people we're trying to help. You can think about it like this. On one side, you have this savior mindset. That's the person who feels they have to be all things to all people. They take on too much, they overfunction, and they almost always burn out. But on the other side, you have the steward mindset. This person understands that they are a manager of their specific gifts, and they see themselves as just one important part of a much larger network of helpers. And that really is the ultimate goal here. Our calling isn't to swoop in and be the hero in some dramatic rescue. It's to be a faithful steward, to find our real purpose by doing our specific part and doing it with excellence as part of a whole community of care. So I'll leave you with this final question to take with you into your work. Our first impulse, almost always, is to ask, what can I do? But the wiser, more mature question to ask first is, am I the right person to do this? Answering that question honestly, well, that's the real key to helping from a place of strength.